Yeah, welcome back to the conversation on New Central Television. It's now time for us to switch gears to Sudan, where the Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has expressed willingness to engage in talks with rebel leader Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo amidst the ongoing conflict since April. This conflict has resulted in over 5,000 casualties and displaced more than 5 million people, according to the United Nations. General Burhan seeks international support and legitimacy for his leadership, denying allegations of targeting civilians and asserting confidence in victory. However, he had to relocate his headquarters to Port Sudan due to the conflict in Khartoum. His willingness for dialogue with General Dagalo is conditional on both sides honoring commitments made during previous talks in Jeddah, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, joining me this evening for this discussion is Abdelrahim Abayazid, a Sudanese activist who joins us from the United Kingdom, and also Dr. Machelin El-Tahir, Sudanese political analyst. A warm welcome to you both, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
Welcome.
I'd like to start with you, Abdelrahim. Could you provide us with a nuanced understanding of the historical and political factors that have contributed to the ongoing conflict in Sudan between General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan's forces, the Sudanese Armed Forces, and Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, Amidst's Rapid Support Forces? How did it get here in the first place?
First of all, I mean, like this is as you know, this is the Security Committee of Al-Bashir. They were part of it, and they were trying, I mean, like to steal the great December Revolution and to hijack the people's demand and people revolution in 2019 April, which was on the 11th of April. This is what has happened, and then the political forces, which used to be all in one agreement, the freedom forces. At that time, there was an agreement for them to be part of the transitional government, and then to look after the people and to fulfill the revolution demands, the Sudanese people demand, which is the freedom and justice, and peace, which never happened because these are the supporters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the two warring parties were the supporters of al-Bashir. So they have been putting a lot of hurdles among the movement of the people of Sudan and people of the revolution. And then they have gone to this stage. They are fighting about the power themselves. They cannot even tolerate each other. But there's so many things happened during the last 4 years. Both of them they led a coup during October 2021, and I think before we spoke about this here in your great channel, Central News, about what was going to happen and what are these two.
Okay.
I can name them as war criminals. What they have been planning for and what they have been doing, and what is this really?
In conclusion, Abdelrahim, both sides are working against the interests of the Sudanese people because they were both supporters of former President Omar al-Bashir, and they are only fighting for their own interests. Thank you, Abdelrahim. Let me just bring in Dr. Machelin El-Tahir into the conversation. Now, Dr. El-Tahir, General Burhan has recently expressed his willingness to engage in talks with Hemeti. What are the specific conditions or prerequisites that both sides would need to meet to ensure the success of this negotiations? We did listen to him speaking at the United Nations General Assembly. It was addressing the entire world. And do you see any sincerity in his pronouncement that he's ready to meet? And, are you hopeful that this could be the beginning of the end of the conflict in Sudan? Hello, Dr. El Tahir, are you there? Okay. Okay, I'll just direct that question to Abdelrahim. I'm not sure if you heard me, but I'll repeat myself. I said, Al-Burhan did say, he's ready to engage in talks with Hemeti. Are there any specific conditions or prerequisites that both sides would need to meet to ensure the success of these negotiations? And are you hopeful? Do you have any glimmer of hope that these negotiations, if they do happen, could be the beginning of the end of this conflict in Sudan?
I would love to be to have a hope that this war will finish and these people are serious about the peace talk. But in fact, they are not, because today, right now, and since the morning, there was a lot of there's a lot of fighting and there was a lot of bombing around the city of Khartoum, central and around the city, and we don't know what about the rest of the places. They are not serious about peace. They are just fighting to finish each other, as they said from the beginning. And as we were mentioned before, even this Jeddah negotiation platform is not the right thing, because they were, at the beginning, they started the wrong way. They were just legalizing the war and saying that everyone will be keeping their places where they were at that time. When you come into negotiation, you will be keeping the places that you are conquering, or you are staying in, or you are based in. So it makes things very, very difficult. But the fact is that still people are dying. Our people are under siege in Sudan. There is no hospitals running, unless a few of them, and there is no food. People are going into disasters, and people staying in the borders, in all the displaced people. I can see your figure saying that 5,000 people.
Yes,
that's the casualties, but it is more than that, actually. There is villages being burned, city being burned in Al Junaina from both sides, and they are fighting. They are targeting civilians and civilians area, whereas people where mostly populated by people, and they are robbing people. They are still there is rape going on there. There is a lot of violence. It's exactly you cannot imagine it. People are talking about it. It is happening. We have seen the victims, reports from UN, reports from international organizations. All this is happening, and there is no even. Even when you wanted to start talk, or you wanted to stop the fighting, you will at least reduce from the casualties. You will reduce from the fighting what you are doing.
But the intensity of the fighting, yes.
Yes, yes.
To show,
it's still going more and more. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Abdelrahim. I believe we have Dr. Majdalin El Tahir with us now. Warm welcome to you, Dr. El Tahir. Now, Dr. El Tahir, from what we've discussed, from what we've seen in the last few days, reports say, General Al-Burhan is willing to engage in, some sort of negotiations with his adversary, Hemeti. But we've seen the history of ceasefires since the Sudan conflict broke out, and it's been marked by failures. It's just things on paper, and before the ink on the paper, the ceasefire was written on, they're back to fighting each other. Now, looking at the history of ceasefire failures in Sudan, What are the underlying obstacles and complexities that have prevented the achievement of a lasting ceasefire and a political solution? And do you believe General Burhan's sincerity when it says, is ready to sit down and negotiate with General Amdan Dagalo Hemeti?
You have to understand that General Burhan has always have two messages. One message for the international community and the broader community outside the Sudan, and one internal message for local consumption. In the international arena, he would say stuff like he is willing to sit down, negotiate, and would very much like out of this trip to give himself as a form of legitimacy as the sole president of the Sudan and presenter of the Sudan, and that gives him an advantage over his enemy. However, the internal message to his supporters and to the people of the Sudan, which he says that in Arabic, and he says that in cities and villages in the Sudan, is the fact that he is going to continue to fight up to the last minute until he wins, until he crushes the RSF. So the two messages are completely contradictory. And why are they contradictory? Because the audience is different and he wants to achieve different things from the two messages. From the outside message, he wants to achieve diplomatic victory. And from the inside message, he wants to achieve a form of support, local support to him. In both cases, the reason why the war continues would very much like to summarize it into two things. The first one, his personal belief that he's going to win, and both of them, they believe that one of them will win and crush the other, regardless of the cost. And the second one, both of them have both supporters inside the country and supporters outside the country. And these people have interests and they have invested in this war. They provided him with intelligence, with logistical support, with military support, and with money. Therefore, they are unwilling to give up now before there is a return for this investment. And by return of investment, that means the ultimate sole victory, whereby he will instead himself as the new pharaoh of the Sudan, and hence it will be the payback time for this investment using the resources, the vast resources of our country, the strategic geopolitical situation of our country, and hence he cannot stop the war, because it is not a matter of his wisdom or what he wants. It's a question of who is supporting him, who is paying the bill for this war. That person, that country, those group of interest, both internal or external, are the only people who can stop this country. But Burhan is not a free man to be able to make the decision whether to go to the negotiation sign and make this happen or not. He is not a free man. He's not a free thinker. He's bound by what he has given of promises for the return of the investment. And I do believe that there is an investment in the regional and internal investment in the war of the Sudan, and all this killing and all these miseries and all this rape and sexual enslavement and incredibly difficult situation whereby both civilian and civilian activists from emergency rooms face unprecedented and unbelievable difficulties in order to be able to provide humanitarian aid to fellow Sudanese. The shameful absence of the international community, even in terms of support and humanitarian aid. It's a war. The war in the Sudan has shown the international community in its worst cynical and inhumane face, and certainly total lack of political wisdom as well.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Tahir. I'd like to bring back Abdelrahim into the conversation. Now, Abdelrahim, Dr. Al-Tahir just said that, Al-Burhan speaks with, when he talks with two mouths. There's a message for the international community and there's a message for the local Sudanese community. And when he talks to the ordinary Sudanese people, he's always talking with a lot of confidence, we're going to crush RSF, and both belligerents in this conflict, General Burhan and General Dagalo, have claimed confidence in achieving victory. Abdelrahim, could you analyze the military dynamics at play and the potential implications of a decisive military outcome on Sudan's future? I mean, this is the Sudanese armed forces up in arms against what people have said, an extension of the Janjaweed, a militia, and so many months into the conflict, they've not been able to claim a decisive victory, even though they have superior air power. What are the dynamics at play, and is it possible that we would see a decisive military outcome? From one side, we'll still have to go back to negotiation tables and find a diplomatic solution to the conflict in Sudan.
As Dr. Madeleine Milak mentioned and said that these men, they are not free. Both of them, they are not free. They are not free men. They are just following, and they're paying back, or they are working for aims for other people. They are just acting for other countries and other interest groups, regional or international groups. They're playing for their interests. So to see any act, from the Sudanese forces to end this in a way that will make things there is one victorian here, or any victory. The victory is always has to be the peace, and the peace for the Sudanese people, not by continuing in the war. But the fact that we kept saying from the beginning, they are both militias. This is the militia, and in the Sudanese forces, the part or the people whom they are fighting now and they are encouraging this fighting are the militia that's being formed by the Al-Bashir and his party, the National Islamic Front, since the coup in 1989. These are the militias inside the forces. We have to address and to look for the real, soldiers and officers whom they are not pro the government or Al-Burhan, and in fact, locally, the people saying that this is the forces, the Sudanese forces, is being kidnapped, in their words, by the leaders by the leaders of the forces whom they are pro or whom they are members of the National Islamic Front of Sudan. So there is no, we are not waiting. Our people are not waiting for any victory of both sides.
Yeah.
Yes, our people are waiting for the peace, for this war to stop. And actually, our Sudanese people, that they are doing that now. They are organizing themselves. They are doing their effort to stop the war by isolating the leaders, by not supporting either sides of the warring parties, and they are showing the grievousness and the anger against that in so many ways.
Okay, thank you, Abdelrahim. I'm afraid we have to go at this point in time. We're out of time in the program. Thank you very much, Abdelrahim Abayazid, Sudanese activist, who joined us from the United States, and also Dr. Majdaleen El-Tahir, Sudanese political analyst. Always a pleasure having you both on the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
This is where we wrap up today's conversation. In the first half of the show, we did talk to the Deputy Director of SERAP, whose organization is urging the federal government to probe missing oil revenues, which are in billions of dollars. And we just concluded our conversation on the situation in Sudan, where the leader of the army, General Abdelrahim, says is willing to speak to the leader of the Rapid Support Forces, General Dagalo, also known as Hemeti, to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Sudan. And Gbenga, Aborowa, thank you very much for being a part of the conversation. See you next time. Bye-bye.